Hello and welcome to Healthy Hearts and Guillotines. My name's Akeem, joined by...
Jesse, hi. Glad to be back this week.
And what thing are we covering this week?
Well, it's Valentine's Day, although it probably won't be Valentine's Day by the time this episode goes out. This week, for that reason, we are covering romantic love and its place in the worlds of health and politics.
So, Jesse, today you said you had an article for us that says how love and having someone to love is one of the main predictors of our health?
Yes. It's actually a research study from Penn State. The original article came from Azita Oravich, and she was an assistant professor of human development and family studies at the ICDS. So according to Oravich, the researchers used a model to track how people interacted and how people expressed and had love expressed to them, more or less via self-reporting throughout a day and throughout a period in their life. And what they discovered was that love was just one of the primary indicators of emotional or psychological well-being. How connected people felt to one another versus how alienated they felt from one another would really determine how well people performed in their jobs, in their family lives, in the outcomes of their goals, everything. It's kind of amazing how love was one of the things that people really desperately needed. And you could get by with not having a perfect amount of a lot of other things. But if you just didn't have love, your quality of life just craters. So in understanding that, when we are trying to be more healthy people, this has to be part of the equation.
It most certainly has to be.
We're here in a shockingly alienated time. So when 90% of my friends would rather be tortured than go and approach someone in a bar to talk to them, that's not a great place for people to find fresh connections with other human beings. And when so much of our work life is drowned in the idea that if we make an intimate emotional connection with another person in any circumstance, we're going to lose our job, we're going to lose our financial safety, we are going to be shunned by those around us for having intimate relationships
At work,
or, and that's who we socialize with 90% of the time is people that we're at work with.
it's a relatively new thing that you cannot have romantic attractions at work.
Well, and the idea that we're supposed to be professional at all times. Professionalism was an idea come up with by the wealthy to make us more productive at work. Having work friends used to be pretty common, and now, unless you're like at the bottom of the totem pole, they expect aggressive, constant productivity. And human brains just don't do that very well.
Yeah.
We've even seen this with the rise of burnout amongst people who are forced to use AI consistently because it's a one-sided social relationship. They are demanding something from a thing which provides it with no emotional connectivity at all. And if you're interacting with another human being, even if it's to ask them to do something, that's emotional connection. So you're giving social energy, but then you're getting back their social energy. Doing that with AIs in business environments, you're not getting anything.
You're getting negative.
You're getting negative, yes. You are being sucked dry. So knowing that, it is still a time when we as people We could blame the capitalism, but we've still got to live this life.
You still gotta live it, and if everyone needs love, then I suppose we should give you a definition of what a healthy love, a healthy relationship is.
Yes, and in my heart of hearts, I believe that loving regardless of the circumstance, loving regardless of the ugliness of politics, of the nihilism of the ruling class, of any of that, is one of the greatest acts of rebellion.
I second that one.
So, healthy relationships.
I have to start out with open, clear, and enthusiastic communication. So the opposite of that would be stonewalling or having to pry the information out of your partner.
Or being manipulated constantly.
Yes.
The number of bad communication styles that we encounter just in daily life is kind of amazing. And then there's not really a training system in school to teach you how to communicate in a healthy way with a romantic partner. Nobody is sitting you down and saying, okay, little Johnny, this is how you have a healthy communication with someone that you love. You're expected to pick that up.
Well,
somewhere.
Yes, somewhere is exactly the correct word, because sometimes even parents don't know how to communicate with their children because, well, same scenario. No one taught them. You're just supposed to figure it out. Read maybe 10, 20 books and hopefully you find the right one and then you actually, well, put it to heart.
If your parents can be bothered, because I love my Lithuanian friends, but the generational trauma in this country is real.
It is real. It is strong. It is absurdly depressing.
Yeah, I've met a few people with parents who are like 40 years old. You know, they're 19, 20 years old. The parents are in their 40s. They're okay-ish. And then I've encountered people who are 20, 30, and their parents are in their 50s. And the number of communication issues between just having parents that are 10 years older in Lithuania is like a vertical line.
It is a vertical line.
It's wild.
All of a sudden, the parents' love comes out as not reassurance or loving words. It comes out as, you're not doing enough. You're going to be a ditch digger if you don't wise up and get your grades up.
Really, really sharp criticism.
Really, and that's supposed to be...
Or
love.
silence.
Ooh, that's even worse.
But then that was a thing that I was told about Lithuanians when I got here is they won't tell you when something's good. They have two modes. It's either sharp criticism or silence. And thankfully, I have made some friends where that wasn't the case. But my God, I've seen it be the case too.
That is, again, sadly true. Lithuanians need those social classes more than anyone.
Well, we do live next door to Russia.
I wonder if this has any connection.
I wonder if these things are related. Anyway, so healthy communication looks like being able to sit down with someone else and exchange ideas and needs positively without sinking into one side attacking the other, personal insults,
blaming,
contempt. Like contempt is way the worst one.
And of course, you do want to be feeling your emotions, but not letting them control the entire conversation.
Yes. And having positive coping mechanisms to deal with your emotions when you feel them is essential.
It is, because if you are having a crash out when you need to be solving a problem empathetically and productively with your partner, well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you how my family solved problems, and then how I solve problems and how I learned to solve problems.
Okay, go ahead.
My mother and father screamed at each other every night for weeks on end, and then got a divorce when I was 6. But they did love me and sent me to therapy.
That is a love language at this point.
Yes, the therapy weirdly helped a lot, but I didn't understand what I was doing with it for many years until I became an adult and ended up dating a dominatrix who was twice my age, and she sat me down and taught me about healthy communication, healthy relationships, and healthy love. And I proceeded to put that out of my mind for a further 10 years until I fully comprehended it sometime in my mid-30s after having multiple truly awful relationships. Thankfully, I had the person who turned out to eventually be my lifelong partner who was very patient with me. But without that person to sit me down and tell me, here's how consent works, and it doesn't just apply to sex. Mm-hmm. Here's how communication works. I am going to remain visibly calm and take control of my own words and take accountability for my own actions while we're communicating with each other, and expect that you'll mirror that energy because I respect you. Wild change for me. Crazy difference from prior relationships at that point. Because it meant that I was given this actually very useful crash course in how to have a conflict and not expect the other person to just be losing their mind. Mm-hmm. And then also in the future, when I had a conflict, to not also be the person losing my mind. And then when I was having relationships, it meant that I could have these conversations, these complex, difficult conversations, without being scared that the other person was just going to attack me.
And that is a very difficult thing, to sit with intense discomfort, with, well, the feeling that I gotta run away, like this isn't safe, and just sit there with the person, and despite all your emotions running, you just still speak your mind and hopefully speak the truth and actually resolve it. And I can't say my experience was very similar to yours. I had to learn it through, well, no real life guide, but plenty of online figures, I suppose you could say.
Oh, yeah. Online friends, having online friends who don't crash out when you have a disagreement that can be a pretty good way to learn.
Yes, and just having these people in your life, incredibly worthwhile.
So the second part of this is quality time. So we've got communication, quality time. Tell me about quality time.
Quality time. Very difficult in this day and age when you're working 40 hours a week, at least, maybe an hour commute. So sometimes you're going to end up back home with your partner and you're too tired to do anything. I think that was the line you told me. And it's exactly how it can be, but that is not what can foster a healthy relationship.
I have a policy because I'm polyamorous. I've never been monogamous before, but I had to develop this policy where I will have at least 20 hours available for each of my partners. And they don't have to use 20 hours, but I treat each partner in my life as a part-time job. So I only ever have 2 partners. Because if you're working 40 hours a week and then you're spending 40 hours a week at a couple of part-time jobs, you're going to burn out and ruin your relationships. But having that time available, it's meant living less expensively, but also that my relationships last a long time.
And that is definitely worth its weight in gold if you could weigh relationships.
Yeah. The harshest, sad thing I hear lately is people who go to high school and then to college and they get out of college at 26 and have never had any kind of positive romantic relationship in their life, and they want one. Like, setting aside the people who don't want to have romantic relationships and want to pursue their careers, they have no ability at 26 to have a positive romantic relationship because literally nobody told them how.
Nobody
Ever.
told them. There's no teacher, no proper figure to teach them. And when all of those fails, you just gotta go with the old trial and error. And if you're 26 and haven't tried any of that, then everyone who you would attempt to learn with or from
expects you to already know.
Yeah, it's like joining in the middle of a board game and expecting people to tell you how to play it.
Most people, at least historically, had started their first non-sexual romantic relationship like 13, 14.
Yeah, like the first crush. That is essentially when it happens.
That's a step. That's the first time you, with your own personal agency, made a connection with another human being. And those first steps are pretty essential to long-term development. And when people are completely denied them by working so hard, it can end up with one of the major indicators of quality of life stripped away from them because they don't know how to find love. So quality time, being able to say, no, I'm taking time with my partner, is such an essential skill.
It sounds like boundaries at this point.
Hey, that's the next topic.
Boundaries are so difficult. But to have boundaries, you need to have excellent communication.
Yes.
And
to not worry your partner's going to freak out when you say, no, I can't do that thing right now.
It is. It's a lot of trust, which, of course, also incredibly necessary for a healthy relationship. To have healthy boundaries means to not pretend you're okay with something you're not, and to not, make your partner feel that way either.
It's one thing that this dominatrix taught me, which is safe words are not just for the bedroom.
I agree.
For those of you who are not in the kink community, Zakim, tell us what a safe word is.
So when a safe word is uttered, and it can be a phrase or just a simple word, sometimes even nonverbal gestures, everyone will stop and cease doing any activity for their physical, mental, and emotional well-being.
Yeah, that seems like a simple thing to have, but it creates an environment of trust where much more intimacy and vulnerability is possible.
Yes, like 100%. If you can trust your partner to just tell you, hey, pineapple, that being the safe word at this point.
Why is pineapple the one that we always use when we need an example of a safe word? Because I've heard that more than once.
I think someone who coined it the first time named it pineapple.
Oh, okay. Anyway, go ahead.
So when someone utters the safe word, that, they know that you're not doing it for no reason, that this is a boundary and you're communicating your needs and, in a way, your feelings, your state in a single phrase. And that's very valuable, especially in a place, actually not just Lithuania, in the world right now where everyone's so disconnected and you're trying to read the other person's mind so often, to just have them say, hey, I don't like this, let's stop. That is amazing, and it builds connection and intimacy like crazy.
I really wish that people understood that safe words are not just a manipulation tactic. They are literally a thing that people can use to feel safe so they don't have to use other defenses in their emotional repertoire. Because a lot of people in the world are very defended.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling safe for them means either having a universally safe space created by a series of agreements or horrifying acts of manipulation. with very little in between.
That is exactly true. I've seen it. I felt it with my own skin that sometimes people cannot tell you the truth because it's too uncomfortable for them. They're afraid of what you might say, how you might react. So instead of having all of this a possibility, they're just going to lie to you, manipulate you, stonewall you, and then you have no option.
And at that point, the relationship becomes one very slowly of contempt.
It is.
And contempt is the poison of all relationships.
Doesn't matter romantic, non-romantic, contempt will ruin it all.
And I want to point out a thing here. This is going to go into politics. Fair warning.
I think it already has.
If you are wondering why so many of the political figures on the far right of American politics or on reactionary political groups around the world will cheerfully lie to your face and tell you things are true that you just watched not be true, like on camera, if they will just lie to your face every second, and you're just wondering, how can this person be so ugly and disconnected that they would do this to another human being? It's because they have contempt for you.
Contempt for, I suppose, humans in general.
Yes, they have contempt for everyone. And that's, you don't want to act like them in your relationships because eventually it catches up to them. They end up completely isolated with no allies and no one to stand beside them.
Contempt is basically a closed circle. What you give is what you get.
And that's, unfortunately, how a lot of people have learned to deal with conflict is via contempt. Because it's a totally protective measure. It's, I will give nothing and I will only attack. My parents did not do well with this. They loved me, huge contempt for each other. What other things would you say are essential to a healthy romantic relationship?
Another one that seems to be pretty essential no matter where you look is intimacy, which can include sex, but for some people it does not have to.
I can see that, and that would be like part of creating a space of trust.
Definitely a space of trust, understanding, empathy, no judgment, essentially.
Yeah. I've had quite a few relationships. My most positive relationships were those where I did not go in feeling judged when I interacted with my partners.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that did the most damage were definitely those that started from the sense that I was being scrutinized for everything I did.
No matter what you do, you're always wrong.
No matter what you do, they've got their eye on you.
It's never enough. Yep, I've also experienced that, and nope. Definitely, if you experience that, I'm pretty sure you will eventually either leave them or build contempt towards them and will also leave them.
Because you can't live like that.
No.
You can't live under a microscope.
And I believe no one should have to do that.
The last thing I believe we mentioned when we were doing our pre-show talk was shared values. Tell us about shared values.
So shared values are not essentially shared goals. They can be similar but different.
One of you can want a cat, and the other one is okay on cats, but it's not an obsessive part of their life.
Yeah, so then one partner wants the cat, they take care of the cat, the other one is whatever, so...
My experience of this is one partner wants a cat, the other one doesn't want a cat, so they get a cat, and then they end up with 4 or 5 cats, and both of them are quite happy with it.
See, this is, I suppose, goes down to knowledge about yourself. It's like, have you had a cat, or did you just have an idea about what having a cat is?
Yeah.
And that goes to a lot of things.
Shared values extends also to like some things like, I would say, basic morality things.
Not lying.
Yeah, not lying, but also how you see the value in other people. Because you cannot have someone who is like for liberal democracy and someone who is from one of the fascist movements have a positive relationship. It's why so many of the mediocre white boys who comprise the fascist movements end up without girlfriends. Because that group treat women with extreme contempt out of the gate. And a woman who joins that group or is involved in that group has to accept that they're going to get treated with contempt. And nobody who's in a mental place where they're okay with being treated with contempt is somebody you want to be in a relationship with.
That is both those red flags.
Big red flags.
And shared values, of course, it would come down to things like, do you want a kid or do you not want any kids?
Are you deeply religious, and is it an important part of your life that I also be religious?
Yes. Are you a couch potato or are you a health fanatic?
Are you going out every day, or are you an indoor kitty?
Do you like spending your money wisely? Do you like spending it just growing your portfolio of investments, hoping one day you're going to be able to retire early?
Or are you focused on experiential stuff in the moment?
Yes, these are very important things you should very openly communicate. And no matter how many times people say it, the word communication will never be said enough.
And communication as a structured system is something we've only really had any positive ideas on for the last 150 years. Like prior to that, we had lots of poetry and lots of romantic novels, but being sat down and taught this is how you communicate positively with other people is something we really only even had the opportunity to learn in the last 150 years. Prior to that, there's just nobody writing self-help books on the topic. So in summary, the things that you pretty well need for a positive romantic relationship: quality time, emotional intimacy and safety, trust, communication skills.
Perfect. Communication has to be one of the strongest things you have in your arsenal for a healthy relationship.
And all of those things including boundaries.
Yes.
How does a person go about cultivating those things if they were, say, raised in an environment that didn't have the most positive versions?
And even if they did, it seems everyone really benefits from someone who actually went and got a degree in this as a science, which is, well, going to a therapist.
And you should remember always, you can just straight up ask your therapist to do things. I think plenty of people just don't know that you can go to your therapist and say, so I need to focus on this specific thing, and I need you to teach me how to do it.
Hey, I noticed I can't trust anyone. I always have my guard up. Or I want to say one thing, but I end up saying a different thing, and then everyone's hurt, and I'm not sure whose fault it is.
That's all stuff that a therapist has heard before and also been taught to take care of.
Exactly.
And train you in the healthy coping mechanisms you need. Because therapists are, this is going to be a weird thing to say, a lot like teachers.
I 100% agree with you.
Outside of that, you can probably also do, I assume, online learning. And I don't recommend it, but trial and error is also an option if you feel like going out and connecting with a bunch of different people.
It is. And let's just remember that you can't get stuck in going for perfection. You will never be completely ready for a relationship, that you will never make a mistake.
Yes.
We're always going to be human. And I suppose one of the things we left out is the ability to forgive in a relationship.
That's really important.
Because without that, I've seen things just burn down slowly and quickly, but without forgiveness, it's just inevitable.
I had a relationship with someone just a couple of years ago who, throughout the course of our entire 7-year relationship, was keeping a mental running tab on every single thing I said that they didn't like.
Oh no, that's contempt.
Yeah, well, it slowly became that, and we just got farther and farther and farther apart. And in the end, it could not survive the level of criticism that they had for me, because I'm a deeply imperfect person.
We all are, and a loving person really shouldn't make you feel more and more imperfect. They should help you feel that you are part of the loving relationship.
And
you're not
growing.
an opponent. One thing I would like to mention is the mentality of it's us versus the problem, not you versus me.
Mm-hmm.
That one has helped me immensely.
I like that. I may want to apply that more in my life, because right now I have a situation where me and my partner are basically working against our own financial instability. And that one's one that we both need for problem solving. While we're talking about things that you want to cultivate, let's add in one that you want to stay away from.
Just one?
Well, this is one that you're probably going to see on the same page you see us. What is it, Zakim?
You're talking about pickup artists.
Yes.
And there are numerous courses. And, well, essentially, lots of them are grifting because they actually pay people to pretend to be their girlfriends.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And how lame does someone's grift have to be when they've got to pay out money to sustain it? It's not like the advice that's necessary for decent relationships is stuff that once a person has it, it's horribly difficult to apply. It just requires some consistency and calm, which are things you can cultivate. A little bit of mindfulness will cultivate the calm necessary for positive relationships.
Just don't try looking for shortcuts, because
there aren't any.
If a shortcut was valid and legitimate, it wouldn't be a shortcut. That would just be the regular way to do things.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us this week. I want to thank everybody for coming and listening to us this week. And while we're at it, I want to plug my compatriot's business, DA Life Consulting, where he will help you through many of life's difficulties and also be glad to help you come up with healthy diets and healthy exercise regimens, which can certainly contribute to your well-being. We are also Healthy Hearts and Guillotines on Patreon and www.healthyheartsandguillotines.com. That's all lowercase. There you can find all of our previous episodes, as well as links to our social media.
And you can ask us anything you want there. We'll probably reply.
Yeah, please ask us questions, leave messages on YouTube. We check it regularly. And to remind you before we go,
your health is in your hands.